Did you know a little over 100 years ago, they tried to impose an income tax, and the Supreme Court came out and said, what are you talking about? This is completely unconstitutional. This is the Pollock versus Farmers. Pollock ends up winning. But then 20 years later, 1913, you know what we do? We announced the Federal Reserve, and we introduced the income tax. You know when? Exactly a year before World War I. Did we know something that was coming? Let's start collecting money before we go to war. 1 year before? And then now it's a normal thing? There's this guy that's got this department called the DOGE with another guy. Both of them are very smart, Vivek and Elon Musk. It's called the Department of Government Efficiency. Do you know when Elon Musk bought Twitter, he had 7,500 employees. Overnight, he fired half of them, 3,750. Of the 3,750 that got fired, they recruited another 1,250 to quit with them. So 7,500 became 2,500 very quickly. This guy's used to making things to be more efficient. What if that took place and it forced everybody like us to work in a free market? What if that were to happen? We're going to talk today about a plan on if there is a way for us to go back to zero income taxes. We're going to propose our plan. You get to tear it apart, but we're going to talk about that today. If you get value out of this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. By the way, did you know that the U.S. government collects roughly $4.7 trillion in gross taxes? 2023, $4.7 trillion, of which, do you know what percentage of those taxes is from tariffs that we get from other countries? You know what the number is? Only $80 billion. That's it. Now, this is why this is so weird. The $80 billion that we collect, if you go back and look at the history of America, where we got our income from to pay for everything, you know 100% of the money, the taxes, that the U.S. government collected just a little over 100 years ago was from tariffs. If you look at this chart, it'll show you tariff revenue as a share of total federal receipts from 1798 to 2023. Go all the way back to 1798. Look at that. 100% of the revenue the U.S. government got was from tariffs. And every time you see a drop off, you see that one right, 1812, it drops off to 45% because they wanted to collect taxes from you and I. That's because of War of 1812, another crisis, another war. But even if you go all the way up to 1910, 50% of the U.S. revenue came from what? Tariffs. The other 50% was from excise taxes. So let me simplify this for you. How much money comes in from importing goods and services, right, from other countries? The number is $3.83 trillion in 2023. Of which the average tariff we get is around 2%. 2% equals to $80 billion. $80 billion is what other countries are paying, okay? 80 billion divided by the $4.7 trillion that the U.S. government collects taxes from you and I. 80 billion divided by 4.7 trillion. That means 99.83% of all taxes that the government is running on, you and I pay for. The countries out there that are saying, here's 340 million rich Americans to come and sell your products to, these countries are saying, holy shit, America, this is the best deal ever. They're only paying 0.017%. What? And just 150 years ago, 100% of the federal spending was coming from who? Tariffs. Why did we stop doing that? I don't know. So what if we charged, instead of the 2% to get the 80 billion, what if we said moving forward across the board is 25%? That's $1 trillion per 25%. 50% is another $2 trillion in income. That's money. And I can bring it down for you and I that we're buying stuff here so we can go back down to 0% taxes when it once used to be unconstitutional. According to the Supreme Court, to tax you and I, it was unconstitutional. Now you see the concern and the benefits of using tariffs. So this next chart is very important. Think about the amount of income the U.S. government gets, okay? Think about GDP. Here's what our GDP is. What percentage of the GDP did the U.S. government spend to exist, okay? If you go back and look at this chart, the federal outlays as a share of GDP over time, in 1849, we only spent 2% of it. Whatever money came in, the government only spent 2% of it. Look at the number today. Today it's 37%. So if we got roughly, $27 trillion in GDP, 37% of the GDP, the federal outlay, are you kidding me? No, that's a problem. We've gotten in the habit of just saying another program. It's okay. While we're in debt, how much money? No. We need to stop this. And there is a way to figure out what you pay zero in income taxes. If we make the government more responsible, the way they make you and I, they force you and I to be more responsible or else. But not them. They missed the audit, the Pentagon 7 years. No. But we know what we're doing. You didn't pay $600 God forbid, we're going to come after you. Big difference. Percentage-wise, where's this money going to? Some people are not going to be happy, but we have to have this conversation. So 24% of the budget is for health insurance, 21% Social Security, 13% defense, 8% economic security, 7% benefits for veterans and federal retirees, 10% is the debt, 5% is education, 2% transportation, natural resources, agriculture, 1%, science, medical research, law enforcement, international, another 3%, then all other is 5%. So some of this stuff we have to cut. Some of this stuff we have to get somebody else to pay for, and you'll see how. So in other words, if you look at health insurance, 2023 was 24%, 1.6 trillion. If you look at Social Security, 21%, 1.4 trillion. If you look at defense, 820 billion. This is a lot of money that's being spent just with those three. Just those three combined is 57%. So here's what's important to think about. When we funded wars, every time we funded wars, the government will come and say, hey, people, guys, we need some money. Can we get some money from you guys? And we put some tiers of taxes. You know, between this income and this income, 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, and it will go to 7%. Nothing crazy is where it would go to. Then we'd say, okay, once we pay off the debt from this war, we'll stop doing taxes again. Okay, fine. And Americans trusted it. Lincoln, hey, we need some money for Civil War. How long are you going to do this, Lincoln? It's going to be 10 years. Okay, cool, let's do it. 3% income over $800. Couple other things that they put in there. 10 years later, income taxes is gone. Why? Because we paid off the war, right? So next war. We kept going through this. And this is when in 1894, the Pollock versus the farmers, like, hey, do we want to put taxes on income? No, it's unconstitutional. Okay, great, you're right, it's in the Constitution, it's unconstitutional. Sorry we brought this up. 20 years later, hey man, 16th Amendment. What's that? We want to be able to tax your income. Are you serious? Yes, but it's small. Yeah, it's really introducing a gradual income tax with rates of 1 to 7% for people making over $500,000 a year. All right, okay, maybe we'll do this a little bit again because maybe there's a war going on because it's World War I. Yes, but it's going to go away. Yeah, of course it's going to go away. No problem. All of a sudden, they didn't go away for 111 years. Now watch this. They looked at the World War I. They said, whoa. This time around, they weren't saying anything about it. Look at this stuff, the taxes. We need another war. If we have another war, what could happen? World War II takes place. Watch this. Go back to the chart, the outlay chart. What do you notice? 1930-39, 10% of GDP. But look at next year, World War II, 28%. And it stayed above that for God knows how long. And now at 37% and higher because we officially accepted that it's okay to pay income taxes. So now they're like, wait a minute, if we can tax these guys, let's just see how much more we can collect. All of a sudden, like, dude, this is great. Use it. In 1939, only 4 million people filed taxes. Total revenue, $900 million. In 1943, just 4 years later, 41 million people filed taxes. More than 10 times. How much revenue? 13 billion. 2 years later, 43 million people filed taxes. The government all of a sudden raised $45 billion. And they sat there and they said, this is brilliant. They're no longer bitching about it, guys. They have accepted the fact that this country got started fighting taxes. They forgot about their own history. Look at this. This is awesome. Let's keep taxing them. What a great program. What's another program we can come up with? Dude, how about we do payroll taxes? That's genius. Payroll? Yeah, payroll taxes. So you mean like their money is going to be taken out of their, before they get the check, they're paying payroll taxes? There's no way they're going to agree to that. Trust me, they will agree to it. There is no way. Dude, they're going to be okay with it. Do it. No joke. Yes. Alternative minimum tax, 1969. They'll be okay. At this point, they've accepted taxes. They'll be okay. Just put it on. Tag on more. Go ahead. Do more. Keep doing it. They're not going to complain about it. They're going to figure this thing out. By the time they do, they're going to be in so much debt that they're going to accept the fact that they have to keep paying taxes. And that's today. Okay, so back to the question. How do we get rid of income taxes where you pay 0% taxes? Let's talk tariffs first. We already know that $4.7 trillion that we spend annually, we have to, one, either lower some of the spending, or two, we have to create some income, right? One of the two. Like if you want to change your life, either you need more income or you need to lower your expenditure so you have more discretionary income. Make sense? So the 4.7's got to come down and we got to increase some more revenue. Tariffs, right now it's only 80 billion. What if we made 25% across the board, no matter what country it is? That's crazy, Pat. What's crazy is we're in debt. And what's crazy is you and I would be cool to pay 0% income taxes if our government can get their act together. Per 25% tariffs across the board instead of 2%, we collect $1 trillion. That 4.7 officially became $3.7 trillion. Let's go to the next one. So now, you know how there's these apps called Mint that you can go out there and get them where you can kind of find out some of the things that you've been paying for the last 3.5 years that you never thought about you're paying for? You know what I'm talking about? The government does that, except they do it in the billions of dollars, right? And it's called overpayments, unknown payments, underpayments, technical improper payments, Wasted payments, we do this every year. Say, it's okay. We can afford this. The taxpayer, it's not a big deal. But you're paying for it, I'm paying for it, right? We're solving for 0% income taxes. Watch this. Let's go through this. Current waste per year, $400 billion a year. That's 25% spending on inefficiencies and fraud just in health insurance programs. And there's an estimated additional $200 to $300 billion due to inflated pricing of drugs, treatments, and administrative overhead. You combine those two together, that's another $650 billion. Social Security, another $3 billion of wasted payments. So that's now $653 billion. Defense, another $123 billion of procurement inefficiencies and fraud. Add another $123 billion there. Then you have another price gouging in defense that could add another $50 to $100 billion per year. Let's say it's only $75 billion. That's $198 billion of wasted payments just for defense. Where are we at now? $851 billion. We just found another $1 trillion of wasted spending. Hello, that 4.7 with 25% tariffs just went to 3.7. With this 850, went to 2.8, 2.9. Interesting. What else can we do? Let's continue. We got another one for you. In 2023, federal agencies alone made $236 billion in improper payments, okay? $175 billion was overpayments. That's 74% of it. Unknown payments, $45 billion. Underpayments, $11.5 billion. Technical improper payments, $4.6 billion. We just found another $236 billion. I think we're now at around 2.6, 2.5 trillion. Not bad. All right, this next one's going to be a little bit weird, so we have to negotiate in a creative way. Do you know how many personnel, U.S. military personnel we have around the world? It's roughly 168,571. So let's say 170,000, right? Of which country think has the most? Japan. In Japan, we have 53,246 personnel there, okay? Germany's got 35K. South Korea's got 24K. Italy's got 12. And United Kingdom's got 10,000. Now, why are we there? We're there partially because these countries want us to be there to feel protected and safe. Japan, protected from who? China. You got South Korea, protected from who? North Korea. Everybody is protected from somebody. They want United States presence there. However, who's paying for it? Why are we paying for it? Are we not giving you protection? If I ask 40 people to come and provide security for an event of mine, am I paying for them or are they paying for it? I mean, who's paying for what? I'm asking for protection. You want protection? Yes. Guess what? Why don't you pay for it? Matter of fact, we went and pulled up the number of how much U.S. has spent protecting Japan since 1945 till today. You know what that number is? Roughly $500 billion. Interesting. What country do we owe the most money to that they bought bonds with us? I think it's roughly 1.1 trillion. You know what it is? I think it's Japan. What if we go back to Japan and we say, hey, Japan, we know we're making payments to you of such and such amount. Guess what? We've kind of protected you for the last 80 years. It's a long time that we've been doing this for you. That's a long time. It's a $500 billion cost to us. It's starting to get expensive. We're thinking about pulling everybody out. However, there's only one way we'll stay there. What's that? One, the debt that we owe you, we need to split it in half. And two, moving forward, for this that we have, you need to pay us $45 billion every year. What are you talking about? That's our cost. We're passing the cost over to you for protection. Would you like that? Because China's around the corner and they're getting more powerful. No. Well, then let's figure this thing out. So this is a creative way of adding a part of getting rid of our debt or recollecting payments from all these countries we give them protection to. Guess what? Make an annual payment. What if this total becomes roughly $200 billion here that we collect, plus we take $500 billion off of our debt? What does that look like? That 2.6 officials at $2.4 trillion. Another savings in our annual expenditure. This next one is creative, and the right creative minds can come up with an idea here. Do you know the U.S. government owns roughly 28% of all the land in the U.S.? That's 640 million acres. Of the 640 million acres that they own, 10% of it, 64 million acres, is land that you can develop on. So what if we take that 64 million acres and we go to some folks and we say, hey, we want to sell this land. We want to offer you to come in here. This is all U.S. folks that we want to invest into this. And we create a program to start generating some income there. What does that look like? Who knows? The numbers there's going to be in the billions, but that's another way of pulling back and having some income that comes back to us where taxes go lower. So just now, if you look at everything that we've talked about, we went from 4.7 trillion to 2.3 trillion at 25% tariffs. If we went to 50% tariffs, that would be 75% of the 4.7 trillion that's been collected. Think about that. So that means now we're only dealing with the annual number of the 4.7 trillion being around 1.2, 1.3 trillion dollars. What does that look like? Where are we at now? What can we do with that now? And then people may say, well, if you increase tariffs to 50%, items we buy may go higher. No problem, but jobs are going to come to America. We're going to get paid. So then if we eliminate taxes, well, that's pretty, we can't do that though, can we? There's many things we can do. What about Social Security? It's a big part of the cost, right? Pat, you don't want to touch Social Security. You will never get elected. I'm not running for anything. I'm not trying to get elected. But Social Security expenditure, we're talking about $1.4 trillion per year. What if we say the following? Whoever got Social Security so far, guess what? Get your payments that you paid in. We'll put the money back to you. Go do whatever you want to do. Moving forward, you're not paying no more Social Security for anybody else. Just the people that we make commitments to. Do your thing. Let's move on. 0% Social Security, because taxes are going to zero. You don't have to worry about it. We can work with that. It's a gradual decrease that we go through. Gradual decrease that we go through. And we get to a point that we create a crime if you keep causing wars. You want to keep causing war? Hey man, listen, knock it off. We're seeing how much debt we're going into, destroying average families. When you look at single family household incomes, back in the days, one person worked, wife stayed home with the family and kids. We were having more kids. We're having fewer kids. We're having dual income sources. Everybody has to work. Why? Just to fund wars? Do you realize a big reason why so many wives and husbands are both working, having multiple jobs, is to fund wars? Think about what I just said right there. Let me get this straight. Somebody was able to raise the kids and was able to have more kids. We're not doing that now. Why? Because we're having more wars that we have to find and fund all this other stuff. Don't you think that's a little ludicrous? I think. You know how we're down to the last $1 trillion or something like that? Oh, $1.2 trillion. You know, right now we have roughly 20 million employees working for state and federal. Think about it. 20 million, if we took an average salary of $75,000, because you know, DC, those guys get paid a lot of money, but let's just say $75,000. 20 million times $75,000 is roughly $1.5 trillion. What if we fired 50% and we said, go get a job in free enterprise? What are you talking about? We can do it with $1 million. Of course, some is state, some is federal, but if we get another $750 billion of coming back to the government, yes. We're almost there, folks. We're not that far off. And by the way, what if we got a little bit leaner and tighter? What would happen if we went on this crazy 10-year run like this? How much more money would be in your pocket? How would your life be if we were able to solve this for the next 10 years? What would happen with that? Is that a dream you're bought into? By the way, tear apart the entire argument. Share it with accountants. Share it with people that politically disagree with capitalists, and they trash capitalists, and they hate Elon Musk, and they hate anybody that's talking about entrepreneurship and business and all these rich, greedy people. Tear apart the argument. Would you like your taxes to be lower? Is your solution just to tax the rich? Because it ain't working. 50%, the bottom 50% of taxpayers only pay 3% of taxes. Let me say that to you one more time. The bottom 50% only pay 3%. The top 3% pay 50%. Think about what we're thinking about, numbers, give or take. The rich are paying plenty of taxes. This is about getting back to this so you and your family can become financially free one day. Because the way we're going right now, it ain't looking too good. If you got value out of this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And if you enjoyed the video, there's another video to watch. The history of taxes in America. It's mind-boggling. If you've never seen it, click here to watch it. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye, bye-bye.